What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Alpha Evolution. I'm your host, Justin Adams. Today, we're going to be talking about checking your woman, right? Checking your woman and shit tests. So, we've all heard about shit tests, right? Shit tests are little tools that women have that check and see if men are still the masculine guy that they perceive you to be. Okay. And there's a number of different types of shit tests that are out there. Okay. Let me find them and I'll pull them up and we can talk about that stuff. Let's see here. All right. So, common shit tests. So, the basic premise around shit tests is the testing of a man's confidence and the rigidity of his mental frame, right? And a frame, I mean, frame gets a lot of criticism, but frame is basically how you see yourself and how you see the reality in which you're living. So it's to see if you are weak and will fold to the other person's frame, and in this case, a woman's frame. There are frame battles everywhere all the time. So let's say you are trying to buy a car and you're haggling with the dealer. That is an example of battling for frame. The dealer says the car is worth this much and you're willing to pay something else, and you use maybe certain tactics, you use reason and logic, you're looking at you start pointing out the reasons why, right? Why you want to pay a certain amount. And that is all frame control. If you've ever been in any kind of negotiation of opposing views, be it in a board meeting or whatever, that is a that is frame control. That's battling for frame. Any debate is a battle for frame. So, in the context of dating and women doing shit tests, they are natural and necessary for women to perform. So basically, it keeps them safe from falling for guys who are not confident men. And sadly, guys in like the YouTube world, right? Guys can copy what it's like to be a confident man. They just go onto YouTube, they watch the video on how to be a confident man, and then they copy the behaviors, they do the suggestions, and so on and so forth. But it doesn't actually make them confident. They could just now appear confident like a sheep wearing a wolf's clothing. So, in terms of shit tests and frame, always be aware of the subconscious balance of who's controlling the frame. And when you are, you must resist giving the impression that you are. So, common tests, common shit tests. There's the comfort test, right? Which is, will you take care of her? Right. And that's not exactly a shit test, but it's just a test. Comfort, will you take care of her? Dominance, are you going to obey her at your own expense? Congruency, are you consistent and not putting up a front? Fitness, are you confident and skilled enough to handle her banter? Dominance, are you going to let her wear the pants? And nuclear, which is full on disrespect, which is a direct attack on your masculinity. And there's really simple response types. One is to ignore it, right? A quick acknowledgement and then redirect. Own it. Be honest and direct. A lover or affirmed lover provider can do this sort of thing. You shame her for being in a me versus you and redirect to us in this together. Own her accusation. So agree and show her what she left out, right? So she's like, oh, you're such a slob, right? And or she says, you're such an asshole. And you say, you know what? I am an asshole, but you forgot to include arrogant and extremely good looking. There's pressure flip, which is a fancy word for just testing her instead. A direct no, that's also a simple, easy, and good one. Or you can pull back and leave, right? You pull out your attention, you pull away, and that is typically for the nuclear test only when there's been a massive amount of disrespect. As far as your response types, as far as any response that you give for any kind of test or a battle for frame, is you never explain yourself, never react emotionally, never take it personally, and never excuse disrespect, never overanalyze, and never respond with logic unless you're okay with driving down attraction. So if you know that, say you were, I guess you find yourself in an argument, which in my opinion, you should never be arguing with a woman. Okay. But let's just say you're in an argument with a woman. Stay unemotional, remain stoic, but understand that if you are going to get at her with pure logic and reason, okay, this is going to drive down her attraction. All right. So just understand that. So, how does this apply to guys who don't get tested, right? Because there are guys out there who don't get tested. And these are the men that women actually desire. So people think that women shit test guys all the time. They don't. Women only shit test dudes that they're not completely confident in. They only shit test dudes that there is doubt. Because think about it. If I give you a chair and I have no history and no knowledge of woodworking, and I say, hey, I made you this great chair, and I give it to you, I have no experience in the matter. You're not going to trust that it's going to support your weight when you sit down. You don't know if it's going to fall apart or not. Like, it kind of looks like it will stand on its own, but can it support weight? So you're going to test it. You're going to sit gingerly on it. Maybe you're going to flip it over. You're going to look at how it's constructed. Is it just held together with glue, or are there screws and things like that holding it together? Are there nails? Is there, strong hardware used, brackets, and so on and so forth, right? Or is it just held together with a bit of duct tape, right? So you're going to test the thing that's come to you that you have some doubt about. And if you have great doubt, you're going to test it a lot. If you have a little bit of doubt, you're going to test it a little bit. And if you have zero doubt, like you bought the chair from a well-known manufacturer with years and years of a good track record of producing wonderful chairs, you're not going to test it at all, right? You completely believe in this chair and you have complete confidence. And the same holds true for men. So if you find yourself getting tested by a woman regularly, she does not trust you. She's not sexually attracted to you, and she's not afraid of losing you. You are a regular guy to her. You are a placeholder, okay? And something real quick about checking a woman, right? Because that also is in this realm of testing. Because you will get tested, and in various ways. And one of the best ways is to check behavior that you are not happy with. Now, how does one know what's acceptable and unacceptable behavior? All right. So if there's a business, how do they know what's acceptable and unacceptable behavior when it comes to employees? How do they know that they're not allowed to show up, wearing dirty clothes? How does the business know that an employee is not allowed to show up being unclean, having scraggly beard, smelly clothes, showing to work up late, right? They know these things because they have a set of rules. They have a set of company guidelines. They have bylaws. They have structure. They have like a legal structure by which everyone is supposed to abide by. And then once they're an employee, they're on board, they're expected to follow these guidelines. And then if any of the guidelines are broken, they have a system by which they enforce them. Now, maybe you'll get a warning, or maybe you'll get no warning and get punishment right away because you're expected to know that stuff, right? Depends on the situation, right? So like if you're in the military, I don't think you're going to get a warning. I think you're expected to know what the rules are. And when you break it, you get punished. So it really depends. In the context of your relationship, Now, you should be well aware of what your rules are. As a man in your home, when a person is in your midst, you should have a very conscious awareness of what behavior is acceptable and what behavior isn't. Because how then will you know if someone is doing something that is unappealing to you, that is getting under your skin, that's disrespectful, that's violating something within you? The only way you can know is by having a set of rules, having a set of principles that you live by. And that's super important because women will test you. They will consciously and sometimes unconsciously do goofy nonsense, and they will get under your skin. And if it's something that you feel should be dealt with, you must deal with it right away. Right away, you should be dealing with that stuff, because if it doesn't, then that sets a precedent. It sets a precedent for further behavior. So much like having a child, if the kid, I don't know, does something stupid at school, right? Let's say he gets caught stealing stuff from other kids. If you don't do any sort of punishment for that and teaching, guiding the child into understanding that that is unacceptable behavior, then they won't understand that it needs to stop, and they'll just keep doing it over and over and over. Similarly, with a woman in your life, you must break down poor behavior the minute it comes up. All right. You cannot let things slide. And a lot of guys, they're afraid of that. They're afraid. They say they get in their feelings because they're emotionally attached. Usually these guys have one-itis, and they are afraid of losing that woman. They're afraid of having access to that woman's body. They're afraid of losing access to her attention, right? So typically these guys are afraid of cutting her off because they think that if they check a woman's behavior, that it's really going to make her get upset and she's not going to want to be with him. Okay. A lot of times these are nice guys, right? Dudes who know the game, dudes who have more than one woman. They understand, they've been around the block a few times, and they know that while a woman may not like the truth, they may not like the punishment, they will respect the truth. They will respect an honest man who's coming at them and saying, hey, I don't like what you said just then. I don't like what you did just then. Here is your warning. If it happens again, there will be repercussions. And you can leave it at that. Or she might say, well, what are the repercussions? And then you can lay it out for her, what those repercussions are. And only you will be able to know what that is, right? Because my repercussions are different than yours. And if it continues, right? So if there's like extreme disrespect or what you've requested continues, then you just simply cut the person out of your life. You say, I'm sorry, darling, but this is just not working out. All right. And it's up to you if you want to keep that door open. Okay. So if it's really bad, you just cut her out, right? You pull out that hatchet and you cut it off at the limb, or I'm sorry, at the joint, and you let it go. If it's a minor infraction, but it just continues to occur despite your your warnings, then you can cut it off and just say, hey, you know what? If your behavior changes, you are welcome to come back. However, if you do that, you're going to be entering back into the roster, right? So imagine like if this is just your girl, you got one girl, she's your girl, you've cut off other people that you were talking to, and then out of the blue, some goofy nonsense starts coming out. She's acting all dumb, and things just develop, and you need to cut her off. All right. When you can say, hey, yeah, you can come back, but understands that when you do, you're going to become part of a roster again, right? You were up here and now you got to go back down, right? You're on first string, and now you've been demoted to second string with all the others. And perhaps you can make it back onto first string. And that's the way it works. If she really is into you, she really feels remorse, then she's going to abide. All right. So, but just understand that most guys out there, they don't have the balls to do that sort of thing. They're afraid. They're afraid of women. They're afraid of criticism. They're afraid of losing they're losing the appeal, right? They're afraid of losing the approval of women. And they're afraid of rocking the boat. They are afraid of confrontation. They're afraid of those feelings that come from confrontation, right? Friction. They can't handle it. And these are ultimately weak men. And these are the weak men that they can and do get into relationships, dating situations, even long-term relationships and marriages. But the women that are involved, sure, they may even love them, but they don't respect them. And that is the problem. Men are unaware that it's respect that they need. And these are the guys who are constantly going to be tested. They're constantly going to be tested to the woman's frame. She'll be saying, I see reality this way. I expect behavior of you to be this way. And then if you don't do something along those lines, I'm going to test you to see if you belong in my frame or not. And if it goes on long enough, she is going to cut you off. She's going to dump you, and she's going to find herself involved with someone who actually has boundaries, who is actually strong enough to keep a wall up or a moat or his drawbridge. All right. And he's got an attitude that I don't need you. Right. I'm now testing you to see if you're worthy of being within my kingdom. And I'll keep you outside on the other side of that moat. And then maybe, you know what? If your behavior is such that I find it appealing, I'll lower the drawbridge and you can come into the outer walls, right? And that it's only one level. And they think that that's something special, but it's not. I mean, it's more special than being on the outside of the moat, right? But there's other people in there too. And then there's layers to that. It keeps going and going into deeper and deeper layers where a man who's about himself and he knows himself and he lives by a set of principles and he has rules, he's going to bring you to his table, the inner sanctum, where his throne is, where his table is, where he has his most trusted advisors and confidants. If you make it that far with a man who's about himself, who's about his stuff, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on this, but it is an honor. You should be wiping your brow if you've gotten that far. Now understand, not every guy can do this, right? This requires a man who's extremely aware of himself. He has built a very, very solid square which he stands on. So by just saying that you're a man does not grant you this sort of privilege. This is a sort of privilege that is earned, and it is not only a privilege, but it's work, right? This being a man is work. And if you can't handle managing people, if you can't handle first managing yourself, but if you can't manage other people, if you can't manage a woman or women, then you don't deserve them. The only thing you deserve on this planet is basic human rights. Beyond that, everything else must be earned. You don't deserve anything. So just because you're a man, you do not deserve respect. Just because you're a man, you do not deserve sex. You do not deserve the desire of women. And you do not deserve the respect of other men or women. That all has to be built. And a lot of it comes from understanding. A lot of that building, it comes from understanding who you actually are and what you mean as a man in this world. But most guys don't even have that ability. They don't have the ability to understand how to even come to that level of understanding of themselves. This goes a lot deeper. This goes a lot deeper than most guys understand. They don't get it. The common idea is that if you make enough money, that you'll be able to get respect. No. If you live in a nice enough place, you'll get respect. No. If you build your body to be strong and fit, good looking, you'll get respect. No. There is no shortcut. There is no formula. It comes into developing a very strong relationship with yourself. And that is it. From there, you can build a great job, amass wealth, a healthy body, a nice place to live, a nice car. But those things cannot be leaned on, because the real men that I know of, you could strip them of all that they have and throw them on a deserted island, and they will still be the men that they are. They are not defined, nor are they dependent on the things that they have collected in their life or lives. They're not dependent. And any man who is dependent on those external things, while they are very good to have, if they are psychologically or physically or emotionally dependent on these things, they will lose. They will absolutely lose. So I think I'm going to leave it here. That's enough for you to think about. So just understand that if you're getting tested by a woman, she does not really desire you and she does not respect you. For if she did, she'd be afraid to lose you. If she's not afraid to lose you, you're just a common dude. And if that's the case, own it, understand it, right? And move on. Develop yourself, love yourself, understand the truth that is inside you. And you will be able to grow far beyond anything you've ever thought possible. All right. This is the Alpha Evolution, and we're out of here.